As readers, we're expected to have certain privileges in a story. Not just the fact that we're getting a story, but we're expected to be told things, to be given information that some, if not most, of the characters might not know. Barring any mysteries or plot twists, this makes a lot of sense. Not only are we given a chance to see into the lives, thoughts, and feelings of some people, but no matter what we know or who we are, we usually can never affect a story directly. We can't change characters' minds, we can't change events or tragedies, we can't change how a story goes. Therefore, why not have a clear picture about what's going on? But what if that wasn't the case? What if there was a series that didn't show you their hand, didn't tell you the full story, and more importantly, would actively lie and gaslight you into believing something that might not even be true? Interesting, right? I love morally gray characters. Characters that aren't too morally black or white, obviously. That doesn't mean I don't love the two ends. Sir Kim from I Get Stronger the More I Eat is probably the most villainous main character I've ever read. And Jiwoo from Elyseed is a little precious bean that I want to protect at all costs, even though he's way stronger than I ever will be. I adore both ends for radically different reasons. And I've actually talked about both ends. You should check those videos out. However, my favorite characters are the ones that stay in the middle, because they're the most fun to read, but also the most fun to talk about. See my 80,000 videos about John Doe. But that's besides the point. Morally gray characters are fantastic. But what if our main cast, not just one character, our entire cast was in that moral gray area? And some even lean towards being kind of evil. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, the series Trash Belongs in the Trash Can is pretty much exactly that. But alas, I should explain just a little bit. Trash Belongs in the Trash Can is a romance series, but hold on, romance should be put in quotes. Because man, oh man, all these guys kind of suck. We mainly follow Woobin Gwa. Man, I really jumped into this without knowing how to pronounce any of their names. This is not going to be fun for me. A 26-year-old man whose job is being a self-described piece of trash. His actual job is no job. He gets money by being a player, a gigolo, a gold digger, whatever you want to call him. He plays with rich girls' hearts to get them to buy him nice things and also just give him straight money. And it's not even like one at a time either. Woobin does not care about anyone. He is not a good person, and that's not really up to debate. He is self-described trash. That was until he stumbled upon Suji Yoon, a blonde, beautiful, and more importantly, at least to him, rich woman. But while trying to make her swoon, he's the one that starts to fall in love with her. Noticing all the little things outside of the money and the beauty. How straightforward she is, how she doesn't like carrots, how she's kind and aware, and how she's honest with him. All of these things that slowly, and by slowly I mean in like one chapter, make him fall in love with her. Which is always a really funny moment when someone who never thought they'd fall in love with anyone, all of a sudden like a bag of bricks, love just knocks them down to the ground. It's great. Anyways, he falls for her so hard and fast that literally on his first date, he tells her everything. How he's trash, how he cheats women out of money, how she shouldn't continue to see him. Also explains his entire life story, how he was an orphan, scheduled to be adopted after a piano performance. But before the performance even happened, the soon-to-be adoptive mother's wallet was stolen, found in his locker, and more importantly, the photo of their family was torn and their daughter was methodically ripped to pieces, leading to his adoption being cancelled and basically leading his life to the way it is now. But Suji is just too perfect. After hearing everything he has to say, she still loves him, setting up the perfect series about a guy trying to change himself to make himself worthy for his perfect girl. Right? Well, it turns out Suji ain't exactly perfect, or as perfect as Woobin would like to believe. Throughout the series, we're introduced to 4 characters. Woobin being our main character, Suji being the love interest, Jaehwan Ma, Woobin's best friend from his orphanage, and Aeon being way too complicated to explain in one sentence, but basically being Woobin's disgraced sister, even if they're not related. Like I said, complicated. Each of these characters all kind of suck just a little bit. They're all pretty much on the board of not great people. Woobin I've already discussed, mainly because he's the main character and a lot of the series hinges on him. But they all have that gray background, some less than others though. First, Jae-hwan is basically the straight man, the serious one, the one who tries his hardest to keep Woobin out of trouble. He's also one of the few that have gotten basically an entire backstory. He's an orphan, just like Woobin. Actually, when he was younger, he was moved into the same orphanage as him, where they became quick friends. But more interestingly, Jae-hwan kind of starts to get a little obsessed with Woobin. Not really obsessed, but it's hard to describe it in any other way. He puts a lot of stake into their relationship, as he would do a lot for him, even getting hurt looking for his necklace, basically falling down the stairs. Even in the future, he pays off his debts, he took care of him, put a roof over his head. He was his guardian. He loved Woobin. I'm not entirely sure if it's in a romantic sense or a familial sense, but he loves him. So why do I think he's morally gray? So far, he doesn't seem all that bad. Well, to get to that, we also need to talk about Suji for a real quick second. Out of the four, she's the one we got the least to know about. And that's kind of interesting too. She's the love interest and all that jazz. At first glance, she's rich, kind, and a little oblivious to the world, dropping $90,000 on a first date just getting some clothes for a dude she likes. Girl, calm down. She seems like this perfect princess, forgiving and generous. But what lies underneath is something really dark, and honestly, I'm not really sure what it is. We see that she's not as perfect or as kind as she pretends to be. Her smile becomes twisted and creepy when Woobin isn't in sight or looking at her. Her facade drops, she gets really dark and twisted. Even her own family says that she doesn't care about anything or anyone, that she uses others. It's really hard to know what she's actually doing or aiming for, especially with our main character Woobin. Does she love him? Is that a lie? It feels like a lot for it to be a lie. Does she just want to possess him? We know their future is definitely bad. As when hugging her, Woobin says that if he knew the future, he would have snapped her beautiful white neck without hesitation. Snapped her neck. That's some strong feelings about someone he's head over heels in love with. Yeah, it's easy to just say he's using him, which would make a lot of sense storytelling wise. Someone who uses people gets used, karma, all that fun stuff, but for what purpose? She also seems to want him, doing a lot to keep him around, which also ties back into Jae-hwan. I mentioned before that Woobin was about to be adopted, but wasn't, because his adoptive parents' family photo had their daughter ripped out and in pieces. He's framed for this because it was in his locker, but it's still a mystery on who did it. And it's not because we don't have suspects, but because we have two: our love interest and our best friend. During Jae-hwan's backstory, we hear him explain that there was a blonde girl that was messing with his locker when the wallet was lost. Jae-hwan never told Woobin this, never had the opportunity or the heart to tell him. And it's too late by the time the series starts, but when he sees Suji, it eats away at him. So after Woobin introduces them, he calls her privately, basically accusing her, saying that she did rip the photo and ruined his chances of having a family. To which she weirdly twists it back onto him, accusing him of ripping up the photo and ruining his chances of getting adopted, making him stay in the orphanage forever with him. And the weirdest part is, he doesn't even fully deny it. He doesn't fully remember if he did or didn't, which is crazy to me. How do you not remember if you didn't or did do that? Like, whatever. The point isn't that he might have done it, but he doesn't outright believe that he didn't do it. He's doubting himself here. And yeah, in his mind, there's enough evidence that he might have done this. And let's be honest, out of the entire group of people, he's the least in the gray. Suji is honestly so up in the air, it's so confusing. Woobin is self-described trash, trying his hardest to be better, and finally there's Aeon. Ayoung is kind of hard to talk about. She too was at the same orphanage, but she was a lot more reckless and wild. But her and Woo-bin got close after some time, not in a romantic sense, but in a family sense. So much so that there were rumors going around that they were siblings, and they actively played along with them. Woo-bin at first was just as reckless and wild, constantly picking fights and such, but after someone reaches out to him, he actively tries his hardest to be a good person during high school, and it starts to rub off on Aeon. But tragedy ensues, getting Woo-bin kicked off the soccer team and Aeon transferred to a different orphanage, where Woo-bin then leaves the orphanage to search for her, and they become a family that they never had. But unfortunately, Aeon's abusive father finds her, threatens her with a knife, knocking her out. But Woo-bin comes to save the day, but blacks out, waking up in the hospital with the worst father dead. Witnesses say that Aeon killed him, but Woo-bin thinks that he killed him. Aeon actually goes to jail, which is wild to me because it was totally self-defense, but whatever. Aeon kind of starts to hold this over Woo-bin, saying that he killed him, that he's a murderer, and that she took his place in prison, tormenting him with this. Like I said, there are no heroes in this story. Even the best of them, Jaewon, has some past and feelings that aren't all that great, but what I like more about it is that you have no idea what to believe. Do you believe Woo-bin's feelings and his future thoughts about snapping someone's neck? Do you believe Jaewon's past? What about Suji's past? One of these two is lying. And Aeon's entire story. Woo-bin thought he killed her father, but people are saying Aeon killed him. What I really like is how much this story doesn't like to give you anything definitive. It weirdly doesn't like you to feel comfortable. Nothing is certain. It'll make you believe one lie after another, and honestly, it's been really weirdly fun to read. So make sure you check out Trash Belongs in the Trash Can, updating every week on Webtoon.